Hello and welcome back to the Pop Culture Powerhouses. This week it's a rich boys playground. And no, it's not near horizontal. We are the broke boys. So we have got Iron Man versus Green Arrow.
God, I wish I was a rich boy.
As always, we've got our 6 categories for differentiating these two trust fund babies. Iconicness, individuality, quality of adaptations, legacy, relatability, and personal preferences. Ooh. So we've got the rich man who was blown up, stuck in a cave,
Yeah,
and got a special superpower thing put in his chest.
yeah,
And then we've got a rich boy who was stuck on an island, became an assassin, and then just kind of stopped being as assassin-y,
yeah.
but for good.
And then
I don't know too much about Green Arrow, but that's the general gist.
yeah, he essentially, from what I know, he's like, was stuck on an island, survived that, became essentially an assassin, but used it for good.
So, iconicness. This is quite a techie one because before 2008, I would have said Green Arrow.
Yeah.
However, in a post-MCU world, Iron Man's clouted.
Green Arrow's in the dirt, like in the ground now, and
yeah, there's a guy whose tweets on Twitter I see all the time who is obsessed with Green Arrow. So like he does this really funny thing, and I love it, where he tweets every time he's watching something. And he also like pretends he's getting a preview for things.
Okay.
And he will watch the randomest things like, love this film, best bit by far was when there was a Green Arrow cameo. And it would be like not even a superhero project sometimes.
I love it.
So it's like Green Arrow definitely has got some hardcore fans out there.
I'm sure it
need
does.
to read more Green Arrow because he's quite a left-wing, all cops are bastards kind of character. He is he was kind of at the peak of his powers. He was written at a time when people were kind of aware that superheroes came across a little bit authoritarian and right-wing inherently, just because of the nature of it.
Yeah.
So he was written very much in a deliberate way of "fuck you, you fascist pieces of shit," which is very, very interesting. Also, for a long time, he wasn't part of the Justice League, despite funding the Justice League.
That's funny.
Because he was like, no, because if we're all this bureaucracy makes us just as bad as the people who are causing this, which is just interesting.
But yeah, I would agree with iconicness. It's like post MCU completely changed the field.
I would say before 2008, Green Arrow was like a B tier hero.
Yeah, and
Iron Man was probably C.
Yeah, and was it around then when he just started getting his CW show?
That was a little bit later. I want to say that was like 2011,
maybe. Which kind of helped him stay in that like B tier, like recognizable. Then the show started. Yeah, but then the show started falling off, and then meanwhile the MCU just skyrocketed, and RDJ took Iron Man to S tier, just on his back alone.
People have managed to delude themselves into thinking Iron Man has always been the face of Marvel. That's how that's how impressive the MCU has been for Iron Man's street cred.
Oh yeah, it's like because we've got to take it as it is now, and it's like the 0 to 100 he's had from being like basically not that anybody in the Marvel universe to you are now one of the faces of it and recognized by like every kid everywhere.
Individuality.
I mean, they're both kind of the same, just one spent his money on bows and arrows and one spent it on suits.
I guess the question is, rich boy with a lot of money who lost people when he was young and is fiercely intelligent and fights in an unconventional way. Stop me if you've heard this before, but I tend to think of someone who's a bit more animal inspired. They are products of their time.
Mm.
The
Products of
comparisons
competition.
between the comparisons between Iron Man and Batman and
Mm.
Green Arrow have been there forever because they are rich white dudes who spend their money on stupid
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, for a long time, they literally did try and turn Green Arrow into Batman. They gave him the Arrow Cave and the Arrow Car and shit like that.
Mm.
They started giving him even more trick arrows to try and make
Yeah.
him seem more techy. Which, I mean, a lot of the trick arrows ended up being good additions. But they've also developed their own kind of spirit. Iron Man is, at his best, kind of very much a narcissist who struggles to actually listen. He's too intelligent for his own good. He thinks he's above a lot of what other people get involved in. And as a result, he's not really a street level hero. He's like, that's what the police are for. I deal with the aliens. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And then Batman's become more centered around Gotham. This is my city. I want to make it better than it was yesterday. Green Arrow is, although he's a hero, he cares more about fighting the system and trying to fix the system that has created these problems and stuff like that. So they are individual in their own ways, but they are also at their core very much inspired by the one of the biggest heroes to ever exist in Batman.
Yeah. I think Iron Man gets away with being somewhat enough different, whereas Green Arrow does, at face value, kind of just feel like, oh yeah, you're the B tier Batman.
And that kind of takes into quality of adaptations as well.
Yeah.
Because while I loved Arrow, Arrow very much did turn Green Arrow into a Batman ripoff.
Yeah.
With this obsession of vengeance and stuff like that.
It started strong and then it just kind of fell off. Because I think that show, like the CW show in particular, got people like hooked on this idea of Green Arrow. And then, like you say, he kind of petered off. The comics went a bit Green Arrow Cave, Green Arrow, like it all kind of ended up leaning that way, which hurts the adaptation of him. Whereas you could say the quality of adaptation for Iron Man went from good comics to amazing film.
I would say, despite their live action portrayals being their most popular, I would say they are not that faithful to the comics to start. And ironically, the longer they went on, the more faithful they became.
Yeah.
So by the end of Arrow, he was a lot more like the Oliver Queen in the comics. They'd managed to move a little bit of that Bruce Wayne and Batman stuff out of the way. He was a little bit less broody and stuff like that, which isn't Oliver realistically. They didn't get rid of all of it, but they did move in the right direction. And the same with Tony Stark. He was almost too likable, too nice of a guy instead of a very flawed person in the early Iron Man films.
Yeah.
And it's as you get a little bit further on, especially in Iron Man 2, where they kind of explore a little bit of the alcoholism arc and the depression, that again, you're getting a little bit closer to what he really is. So it was almost like they needed to simplify these characters to get wider audience interested. And then they kind of became more faithful to the characters once they had people hooked.
I would agree with that.
Legacy.
Yeah. It's such a weird one for these characters. Because like we've already just said, they've kind of been a branch from Batman.
Yes.
Green Arrow, I don't know if he's really led to anything other characters. Whereas I feel like you could say that Iron Man gave us War Machine, gave us why is my brain blanking on her? The young girl.
Riri?
Yeah.
I mean, even simpler than that. What's the legacy of Iron Man in the MCU? The words
True.
"I am Iron Man"
Yeah.
are like
I mean,
quintessential to the modern superhero fan.
his death is like one of the biggest moments of that whole storyline.
Yes, that like don't spoil the end game was literally a thing because they were killing off Iron Man.
Yeah. Iron Man's legacy and the fact that people are so like still loved how his story ended, and some will like are still like, no, we can't mess with that. Like
Yeah,
he's left his mark there on the MCU as a whole and on Marvel because of those films. And it's like
yeah,
Green Arrow's kind of unfortunately Green Arrow's legacy is the last thing we'll remember is the CW show which fell off.
yes. We I have a good feeling at some point in James Gunn's DCU we will get the Green Arrow we deserve.
I would agree with that. I do think
But
we
for
will.
now, the legacy. I mean, let's just put this in perspective. It is 16 years ago today, I believe, since Iron Man came out in cinemas.
Damn.
That makes the MCU 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That means in England, the MCU can do some fun stuff. Um, and like no small part of that is down to RDJ.
Yeah.
And like rightly or wrongly, I mean, actually, I think it's rightly because of how much he saved the character of Iron Man's popularity, at least.
Mm.
You look at where he was before, he was a huge risk to the studios. It was only after Stanley kind of met with him and went, no, I think he's the right guy, you should go for
Yeah.
it, that they were like willing to take the risk. Now we're here 20 plus films later, built like the highest grossing franchise of all time.
Yeah.
That legacy is like, it's very rare you can actually put a legacy in quantifiable numbers. And also
True.
this is only the beginning. I would say any kind of penny the MCU makes,
Is off the
kind
back
of
of that first film.
like a little bit of credit every year. Like the credit goes down slightly, but a little bit of that credit still has to go towards Iron Man.
Yeah, and that first, yeah, for sure. And I mean, even to the point of legacy of being like, there is now a generation of kids that have joined the kids that dress up as Spider-Man, now dress up as want to be the Iron Man.
Yeah, absolutely.
There isn't a generation of kids that I know of that are like, I want to be Green Arrow.
Well, like it's all like you see all like the Iron Man masks now, don't you?
Yeah.
Like the really high tech ones
Oh
that they
yeah,
have,
yeah.
like Jarvis opens it like that. Yeah, when we were growing up, you had the Spider-Man mask that had like the voice changer in it, maybe, or the Batman mask with the voice changer. Now
Yeah.
people are like spending hundreds of dollars on these Iron Man masks because he is that much of a pop
Yeah.
culture powerhouse.
Yeah. For sure.
Relatability. I don't know about you, Hori. I struggle to relate to millionaires and billionaires.
Yeah, same.
In fact, you could probably find some of my opinions about millionaires and billionaires that would say I find them inherently quite unrelatable.
Yes.
However, if I was to say I found one of these more relatable than the other, it would be Green Arrow because he is very much a social injustice warrior.
Yeah.
Iron Man is a rich dude who like decided he would like to fight people,
Yeah.
and he spent loads of money building a suit of armor so that he didn't have to train too much. I know that's a massive oversimplification, but
No, I get what you mean. Yeah, I do think in the general scheme of things, people are going to find Oliver Queen more relatable because of his views.
yes, I
Yes,
think that's
we're
the
not
only way to look at it.
assassins, and yes, I don't know what it's like to be trapped on an island somewhere, but his views on the systems and stuff can be a bit more relatable. Whereas, yeah, there's probably some people that relate to like Iron Man's tech side and his engineering side,
Yes,
and that might, but like, yeah, his narcissism and use of just he's a rich billionaire, like it's harder to relate to.
absolutely. I think like if you're struggling or you've gone through any of like the personal issues Tony Stark's character has had, he will
Hmm.
probably be quite relatable.
Yeah.
But I think to a more general audience, Green Arrow is more relatable, which is why it's so surprising that he struggled to get off the ground in more recent times.
Yeah.
Personal preference? Who are you leaning towards?
Well, I can remember going to see that first MCU film, and that definitely opened my eyes to Marvel way more back then. So I lean Iron Man all the way.
I think that's completely fair. If I was to think like as a pop culture icon, Iron Man is just so much more prevalent. I think he, maybe it's a bit of a recency bias, but just wowzers. When you just think where he was, like 2007, no one knew what the fucking Iron Man was.
No.
Like,
And then he just
now,
exploded onto the scene.
Yeah, now even people who don't know the MCU, if you say Iron Man, there'll be a glimmer of recognition in their eye. And I don't think anything shows off a pop culture powerhouse quite as well as someone who doesn't give a fuck about that character having a glimmer of recognition when they hear the name.
Yeah.
But let's tot it up and see where we're at.
Yes.
Iconicness. We had Iron Man.
Yep, we did.
Individuality. I would say it's quite close, but I'd probably be more inclined to go for Green Arrow.
I find it hard to lean one way or the other.
What I will say is Green Arrow did exist for like 22 years before Iron Man.
It's tough because obviously we talked about this both.
So to put it in perspective, Iron Man came out in 63. Batman came out in 39. Green Arrow came out in 41.
In that case, then yeah, it leans Green Arrow just because he's older and
yes,
they're all
he's had more time to put together his own identity.
Yeah.
Quality of adaptations, I think, has
Iron
to go
Man.
to Iron Man.
Yeah.
Like one of the most famous adaptations in movie history.
Yep.
Legacy, Iron Man.
Yep, Iron Man.
Relatability, Green Arrow.
Yeah, I would say Green Arrow though.
Making it 3-2 as we go into the final, which is Iron Man.
Yes.
On personal preference.
Yes.
Giving us a final tally of 4-2 to the Iron Man.
Not a massive surprise there.
No, not at all. I think Oliver just didn't pack quite enough trick arrows. Forgot
and hey,
TNT arrow.
Maybe he will overtake him in the DCU if James Gunn does a good job.
I would love to see. I mean, I've been screaming about it for however long now. I want camper, more colourful superhero content. If we start getting that from DC, Green Arrow is one of the perfect characters for it.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's what we get. But that is all from us this week. If you haven't already, consider liking, consider subscribing, consider ringing the bell for post notifications. And while you're considering all that, have a lovely week and we'll catch you next time.
We'll catch you next time.